It's really therapeutic. It's like Play-Doh, if you think about it. But that is a small tennis ball, a fat squash ball. The worst superhero trait to ever have. It'd be wonderful I could be telekinetic or be invisible, but no. I can tell when something's out by 1/2 millimetre. Yay! Don't get many calls from the police, as you can imagine, for help. And voila! How pretty is that? It's lovely. I know, I get excited over burgers. Looks pretty cool. There you go, some lovely burgers. Hello, my gorgeous lovelies. And today I'm going to be talking you through doing my special burgers. They are, I say they're special burgers, there's nothing too weird about them. It's just that they've got a lot more flavour. Don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong if you're just going to do your burgers made from mincemeat with just salt and pepper. You know, that tastes just fantastic as well. I think the West Indian me just loves to add a little extra something. So what I've done is Simon has very kindly chopped up the ingredients that you see in the description, and I'm going to be making a kind of paste which I mix with the mincemeat, which just improves the flavour, makes them stretch a little further as well, and just makes them lush. So I'm going to crack on straight away and get into the first bit. So we need breadcrumbs, and although sometimes if you're very efficient you'll already have some breadcrumbs, I've never used the pack breadcrumbs. Do you know, the orange ones you cut like outside fish fingers and stuff? I've never used those. I assume they would work. I'm not 100% sure. I would advise against it. If you've got one of these, then you can make breadcrumbs. If not, what I used to do before I had this was get 2 stale bits of bread. I've got 2 ends here because they're all nice and stale and hard. And I would grate it on a cheese grater, and that gets everything small enough to use. Please be careful of your knuckles and your hands, because cheese graters obviously can be a little bit dangerous. With grating cheese on a cheese grater, you're actually grating quite a solid piece of cheese, and you can kind of feel the pressure as you're going. But with bread, it can be quite crumbly, and it'll just snap sometimes. So just watch those knuckles of yours when you're doing it. If you're going to use a food processor like I am, just tear up your bread. Right, so everything's in there now, all broken up into bits. I'm just going to pulse this and in bits and pieces until it gets to kind of, well, breadcrumb stage. I shall show you what it looks like so you've got an idea. So this is going to be quite loud, so I'm just going to go like that until it's the right stage. So you know what I'm doing. Again, if you have one that just goes, that's fine as well. So it's totally up to you. Just whatever gets to breadcrumbs. I find the pulsing works best on this. If you have one that does something slightly different and gets a better breadcrumb result, then use that. It is a personal choice. So I shall see you in a second when I've finished doing these breadcrumbs. Okay, and we're done. So this I actually had to do for a little while like that, because they were a bit fresher than I realised. I thought they were stale enough. So if the bread is fresh, it might need a little bit more of a continual thing rather than the quick pulsing. The reason I do quick pulsing when it's really stale is because otherwise it turns to powder. That is the last thing you need. But because these are actually just not hard enough, I had to actually blitz it a little bit harder to get into breadcrumb stage. So whatever you do, whatever technique you use, as long as it gets to breadcrumb stage and not to powder stage. If it does get to powder stage, I've never actually used the breadcrumbs when it's like that. I'm sure it probably won't be the end of the world, because a lot of these shop-bought burgers actually have something called rusk, which is like a bread powder. So it should be fine, but I just prefer the texture of it when it's at breadcrumb stage. So I'll just show you the breadcrumbs. I mean, they're very roughly chopped. Very, very roughly chopped. So you've got a bit of an idea of what they look like. But I need to get this back on now, because now I've done the breadcrumbs, I need to add, just put my bowl over here, I need to add a couple of bits. So I'm going to pop the peppers in. Simon has chopped these really, really finely for me in my fabulous mandolin. I call it my nicer dicer slicer, but my mandolin. And I'll put the link to that if you want to use it. Please, please be careful. The blades are super duper sharp. So please make sure you are very, very careful when you use it, if you use it. Otherwise, just use a normal knife. Chop it up as finely as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. But just bear in mind, because these are going to be in burgers, if you have two chunks that are too big, it is going to stick out. Again, if you don't like peppers, don't add them. It was supposed to be a red pepper, but we've run out, so we're using green pepper. So it literally is, I like all my recipes, very flexible. So pop that in. Same with the onion. So I'm going to do this in the same mandolin slicer thing that we have. Again, chop it as fine as you can. If you don't like onions, don't add it. If you'd rather add onion granules, add that. But I prefer the fresh onion, and as I said, if you can manage to chop it as finely as you can, just be careful. And of course, if you only want to use a knife for that, that is fine too. As I said, I forgot to tell you at the beginning, I'm wearing my sexy gloves because I will be touching the meat later. And although you can use your hands, there's no problem with that. Give them a good wash before you do, though. That's the mummy in me speaking. But yeah, I'm just going to use this just so it makes things a little bit easier and I don't get all the stuff under my nails. So that's in there for now. I'm just going to pop that down. I'm just going to give this another quick blitz so it mixes in together. Lovely jubbly. Now, I've got 2 stock cubes here. I'm not adding salt and pepper because the stock cube has all the seasoning in. This is a beef stock cube. You could use a vegetable stock cube, that's absolutely fine, or veg stock or whatever you fancy. If you don't want to use this or you don't have any stock cubes, salt and pepper will be absolutely fine. It's just I do love the extra flavour that 2 stock cubes give for the amount of mince we're using. So I'm just going to pop that in. I'm going to sprinkle that in. There. I've crunched it up because they sometimes come in cubes. If yours doesn't come in cubes, some of the stock cubes you can get are a bit squishy and they have to be melted in water. So what I would suggest is, if that's the case, then try and see if you could just melt it in a little bit of hot water, maybe in the microwave, something like that, and just sort of get it to a paste. If at least you can get it to a thick paste, that's absolutely fine as well. We just don't want any more excess liquid in this because we've got liquid from an egg which we'll be putting in, and that's going to bind it. But too much liquid will make them really plappy and really hard to make into burgers and hard to pick up when they're finished because they'll be a little bit wet. So just going to blitz this on again. There we go, that's all mixed in. Lovely. So I've got an egg here and I've got some garlic puree. If you only got garlic granules, or if you've got fresh garlic, just crush a clove in there, that's absolutely fine. And I'm just going to mix it in with the egg. That way we'll get a more even distribution of the garlic in the burger. Because if I pop it as a lump and there's breadcrumbs in there, as it's puree and liquid, it'll just collect breadcrumbs and someone's going to get a really garlicky mouthful. And, it might not be too bad. I mean, I do love garlic. But I don't think it's going to be that sexy. Especially if you've got something fancy later on planned for the day. Right, so Worcester sauce, I will put exact measurements in the description. As I said, this is my recipe, which I've been making forever. So I kind of know how much needs to go in, but I'll put the exact amounts for you in the description so you know exactly what you're using. And again, I'm just mixing these up with the egg. It'll just help it get distributed in the breadcrumbs so it gets mixed in really, really well. Right. So, in order just to get this all into one great big mush, I'm just going to pour this in here. Pour this around the edge. And then set this on, back again, limo. Right, and that's literally it. The egg has actually mixed in with everything to create this paste that I was mentioning at the beginning. So this is the paste which I mix with the meat. So let me just get all my bits and pieces together and get some space in here. Before I go on, this is genius. Now, I used to just make burgers, and you can just do this as well. For years, I made burgers by just getting a clump of burger, rolling it into a ball and pressing it flat onto the baking tray. Then one day my dad said that, because my dad had, he was living in Nottingham at the time, and he said that he'd bought one of these, and I was like, oh, Dad, what a faff, what bother with that? And he was like, no, it's really brilliant. Anyway, he brought out the burgers that he'd made, and they were perfect. They were like proper ones you get in a shop. We'd had them in the freezer. And they come with the wax discs, so you could just put burger wax, and then it won't stick together. So if it's frozen, you can easily take it out and cook from frozen. And I did poo-poo it before I actually had the burger. My dad made fantastic fantastic burgers. He did a similar mix to this. It was his own recipe. And I was so impressed at just how perfectly the burgers came out. They were just right for a burger bun. And I thought the other way, although it works, it's a bit rustic and the odd cracks around the edges and stuff like that, a bit of, size difference. I just thought this is just brilliant. So it makes a 1/4 pounder. So in there is a 1/4 pounder depth. I'm not going to be making 1/4 pounders today. I'm going to be doing probably about half of that. Sort of like 8 pounders. Just because it means that you can just have I like to have a burger with lettuce and tomato and cheese and all sorts of things in. If you want to have a 1/4 pounder, all you've got to do is put 2 burgers in and then you're done. So this is brilliant. I love it. I tried it. I'm completely sold on what my dad said. He was absolutely right, as he usually is. So I will put a link to where to buy one of these burger presses if you want to. They're not expensive. Again, it's totally up to you. It's a personal choice. If you don't want to spend the money, don't spend the money. But, personally, I love this. It's so good. I love the uniformity of it all. So I will be using this, and I'm going to be putting them straight onto the baking tray. Now, I've got 2 baking trays here because I couldn't quite remember how many of these made, which is really naughty of me. It's just when I make them, I just go ahead into the kitchen, automatic pilot, go through the recipe, make them, done. But obviously I'm trying to show you guys how to do this. So when I've done this, I'm going to be writing down the amounts of the ingredients and all the exact things for you, so you know exactly what you're going to need. So by the end of this video, I'll have how many this makes. I'll put it in the description down below how many I got out of it with my burger press, which is going to be an approximate burger size anyway. So for now, I've got 2 baking trays just in case, but I do find sometimes, especially if the meat is quite lean, occasionally it sticks to foil. Not always, but just so you can save people who have fillings or whatever it is, not get a bit of foil, I always cover with a bit of baking parchment as well. Don't forget, these are absolutely fantastic for the barbecue. They are a little softer than normal burgers on the barbecue. So you will have to have, if you can have a tray, or even if you just put some foil on your barbecue and put holes in it, give it a bit of a grease, and then put your burgers on. When I say give it a grease, just literally wipe it with some oil or spray those oil spray things on them. And then you can put your burgers onto that, because until they are cooked, they're quite fragile and a bit breakable because I've got this paste in them. They are still very delicious burgers. You still get that good meaty bite, but they are just slightly more delicate in, when you put them on. You're not like tipping a slab of meat. So if you're going to grill them on the barbecue, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure you've got some greased foil on the barbie and then pop them on the greased foil. And if you're making them in the oven, greased foil is absolutely fine in the oven as well. For my own preference, I've got baking parchment on here. So I'm going to get cracking. Big bowl, big meat in there. Now be careful. They don't seem to do this anymore. They used to have this piece of paper on the bottom, which I think was supposed to collect any excess blood or something, but they don't seem to have them anymore. But just do check, because there's been many a time I've just slapped this in here thinking, oh, there's no paper in this one, and there has been, and that's really just a pain in the bum to get out. So I'm just going to get the paste off, and I'm going to try get the blade out, because it is super duper sharp. Even after all these years, it can still do some damage. So I don't want that. Just move that out of the way. Oop, and the base for the thingy there. Right, so just get the paste, which is, I'm going to show you what it looks like. You can see them there. So just get your paste and pop it in with your minced beef. Now I've got in here lean, I think minced steak meat, but you can use, you can use this recipe with lamb. You could use it with chicken. It's quite highly flavoured for chicken. Chicken is actually quite a delicate, actually I'll put that back up there. Chicken is actually quite a delicate flavour, but it does give a really wonderful seasoning taste to it. So, feel free to change the meat, venison, whatever you've got really. Whatever you can find, whatever you want, whatever you fancy. Turkey, probably I went with turkey actually. So this is the stage where you can mix this with a spoon if you want to. But to be very honest, it is a bit of a faff. And I do think that you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody who cooks who's going to say to you, there's an easier way than just using your hands. And you know, if you've got gloves and you don't, or if you don't mind it, it's really therapeutic. It's like Play-Doh if you think about it. So you basically just squish everything together. You give it a good old squish. Good old move. I'm moving everything about actually right now. What you want to do is just incorporate it evenly, and it's the best way. I will give you a little hint, a little tip. When Simon was making my burgers once, and he was using my recipe, I think it was the first time he ever made them. He didn't understand what the instructions were, and he put the mince in the food processor. It did not work. It's just too much. It will not. So if you plan in thinking like, oh, I'll save time, put it in the food processor, it doesn't work. It just gets all clogged up. So unfortunately, this is one of these things. I mean, if you can find a better way, please let me know. I'd love it. I mean, as I said, this isn't really the end of the world. I have arthritis, as I repeatedly go on about. But, you know, it doesn't hurt. It's absolutely fine. It's just soft. Oh, God, and a word of warning. If you've taken your meat out of the freezer and you've defrosted it, may I suggest you let it come to room temperature? Because I have defrosted meat. I thought, oh, God, I forgot to take the meat out of the freezer for the barbecue or whatever. And I've defrosted it in the microwave, everything great. Obviously, I don't want it to cook in the microwave, so I've tried to sort of leave it until it's just defrosted and not cooked. And, oh, God, the frostbite my hands got. I mean, obviously not literal frostbite. But the pain was ridiculous because it was so cold. And even though it was a really hot day, I did not enjoy that. So just be careful when you're doing it. It can really hurt if you've taken it from a freezer, or if your fridge is especially cold. So leave it out for about 10 minutes. It really will be fine. It's not going to cause you that much problem because this is still fridge cold. So it's still safe. Your meat will be fine. You won't die. And you won't get any nasty illnesses or ailments. Well, there we go. So, while I've been yakking, just for those few minutes, it is pretty much well stirred in. And that's it, really. It's incredibly simple. I mean, the hardest part of this, I suppose, is prepping it. You know, chopping some onion, chopping some peppers, and measuring out stuff. You know, it's just so easy going. And like I said, with the two ends of bread, you know, if you've got two stale slices, or if you've got a stale burger bun, absolutely fine. It's all my recipes are flexible. All my recipes are interchangeable. And just because it says, you know, 2 slices of bread to make breadcrumbs, if you can actually get breadcrumbs. There we go. I thought I was going to get that mixed up. Breadcrumbs, and they also come in a packet, so you can get those ready done. You don't have to do, you know, the stale bread business. Make life a lot easier. So yeah, whatever makes life an easier trip, I'm all for it. So now I'm going to take, this, and I'm going to, for the first one, I'm just going to measure out. So I had about a handful. I think that's actually going to be fine. Do I need any more? And what I do, so if you do it by hand, I do one by hand actually. If you do one by hand, you take about, now, my hands are quite small, but that is a small tennis ball, a fat squash ball. I don't know how to describe it. So, you know, roughly that's what I would do. But again, this is your choice. If you're going to do it by hand, I'd probably do it, because don't forget, if you do it quite flat, because they kind of shrink and then they go fat. So if you leave them too high, you're going to basically get meatballs. So if you're going to do it by hand, nice and rustic, and I will do a rustic one. I'm going to pop this rustic one there. That's kind of what I'd go for. It's about, I'm being a bit specific here, but it's about 7mm thick. I'm a bit weird like that. I can see things that are out by 0.5 millimetre. I know that's the worst superhero trait to ever have. It'd be wonderful I could be telekinetic or be invisible, but no. I can tell when something's out by 0.5 millimetre. Yay! Don't get many calls from the police, as you can imagine, for help. Anyway, so that's that. And I've done roughly, so I've done this in the burger maker, in this one. This little contraption, which I love. I'm probably going to pop a little bit more in, because this is actually a bit bigger than the one I've made. And I need to kind of just gauge. The first one will tell me, because when I make it. So I just popped it onto the tray, next to the other one. and I'm pressing down so that the burger press just presses it into the right shape. And then lift up, and where's my knife? My trusty dinner knife. Go in, and voila! How pretty is that? It's lovely. I know, I get excited over burgers. But it is. It's such a perfect shape and everything. You got to catch your joy where you find it. Right, so, oops, flinging it everywhere. Flinging everything. It wouldn't be me if I didn't, would it? So I'm going to carry on with these. And I'm going to fill up the tray with my lovely burgers. As I said, I'm not going to be burgerist about this. The handmade ones are going to taste just as delicious. And that is the important point. It's just, I really love the crisp edges of the other one. Personal preference again. It's just for me. But, you know, as long as the kids and the husband and everybody else who is in the house loves the taste, no one cares. They're not going to see it in the burger, are they? They're not going to look at it and be like, I'm not eating that. Look at it, there's no crisp edge. So it's fine. So I'm going to finish these, and then I will come back to you when I have a tray full of gorgeous burgers. I'll see you in a moment. For now. Right, that's that done. Put all that away. So here we have it. I'll take this off because I won't be touching any meat anymore now. And we have, let's see, 6 and 5. So we've got 11, but bear in mind, that was a bit chunky, that was a bit smaller, and that was a bit thinner, but not too much. They'll still cook at kind of like at the right speed and still be okay. But if I was going to be really fussy, I could have like just rejigged them around and made 12 altogether. So it is something that you can get 12 burgers out of the mix. That's no problem. And as I said, that's actually quite a lot from the whole thing. So I'm going to put these in the oven. Now, if you want to grill them, that's great, because burgers normally are grilled and they will work perfectly if you grill them. If you keep an eye on them though, because they have onion, garlic and ketchup in, which all contain, and pepper, which all have sugar. Obviously, like pepper has its own sugars and onion and garlic and stuff. Ketchup actually has sugar in it. So they will be more predisposed to burning if you don't keep an eye on them and keep the grill at the right height, or keep turning them evenly if you can. In the oven, you can just kind of leave them and you don't have to really bother about them because the heat is much gentler. I have a fan oven again as well, so the heat's going to be distributed. On a grill, the heat is just on the top, straight down, and you have to pay more attention, as you would on a barbecue. When you're at a barbecue, most times there's somebody there. Normally it's the guy in the family, but admittedly it's me. I'm normally the king of the barbecue, the queen of the barbecue actually, the queen of the barbecue, aren't I? And I will stand there and keep turning things so they don't burn, so that way you get this even heat distribution. So it's the same with the grill in your house, in your oven. If you're going to use the grill, you're going to need to pay as much attention as you would on a barbecue. But if you're like me and you just want to bung it in the oven, let it cook until it's gorgeous, and then take it out and feed everybody and pop it in a burger bun with all the loveliness, then I put them in the oven. All the times and temperatures down there, I use 200 degrees C. I would say probably about 15-20 minutes, depending on your oven, because also don't forget, ovens vary very slightly. Mine is a bit rubbish, unfortunately, and so it may take a little longer. Also, it heats up more on one side than the other. We have to get that fixed, I know, but that means I might have to go in and check and turn them around once, but they will cook perfectly fine in the oven with a lot less fuss. If you want to grill, go for it. If you want to fry, go for it. But if you want to be a little bit more sort of like, oh, I can't be bothered, pop them in the oven, let them cook, check them. You'll see when they are ready. It's easy to tell when a burger's ready. It's all kind of shrunk up. It's brown on both sides. When you put a fork on it to press it down, first of all, it doesn't sort of collapse too much and it won't ooze anything red. The juices should be fairly clear or sort of a brown colour. That's okay. So I'm going to shove these in the oven, and then when they come out, I will show you what they look like when they're finished, and then I will feed my family with them. So I'm going to go and do that right now. Back in a bit. Hello, back again, and they're out of the oven. It took 15 minutes in the oven, which is like no time at all. They are gorgeous. They look fantastic. I will show you. Even the one that I did by hand, which is there, looks pretty cool. there you go, some lovely burgers. Yeah, I mean, I still prefer them in my burger maker, but it's totally up to you if you don't want them. As you see, it's absolutely fine if you do it with your hands. Now, my suggestion is, if you're going to have it with cheese, and you can have it with like burger cheese, but my family like proper cheese, which, I can never get into these packs. Oh. Right, okay, let's have a go. Haha. Let's have a go, she says, forgetting she's got a lovely trusty sharp knife. So yeah, as I was saying, nothing away. My kids like the burger cheese when they go out for, when we have a McDonald's treat or whatever. But at home, they like the proper cheese slices, which are so cheap these days. I mean, you know, I'm just being lazy. Obviously, an ordinary cheese in your fridge, just a few slices on top, no problem. But just a tip, as soon as they come out of the oven, I'll put the cheese on top. If they like them really melted, then just pop it back into the oven for literally a minute, if that. 30 seconds to a minute, and that will have melted. If you keep it too long, cheese is going to get brown. And oh, sorry, I forgot to say, turn the oven off. And then put it back in the oven, because the heat from the oven that is left will melt that perfectly, but within 10, 20, 30 seconds maximum. Any longer than that, you're going to lose all that lovely cheese over the side, and any longer than that, it's going to start to go brown and bubbly and crispy, which is still tasty, but not what you really want in a burger. So that's that. So I'm just doing one for you. So I'm just going to show you how it goes. So what I've done, I have got my burger buns already. These are huge. They're massive. What I normally tend to do is pop a couple of burgers in, and then that's the whole meal done in one. And so what I'm going to do, what's that, got a burger on the top of that already? Let's take that off there. So yeah, I mean, again, some of my kids, it's like I've got millions. One of my kids likes butter and the other one doesn't. So I'm just going to pop a burger with cheese on without butter for the moment. Get my trusty fish slice thing and just pick this up. Now this particular child does not like the cheese too melted, so this is just fine for her. So the cheese on top, get a lovely slice of beefsteak tomato. Oh, that looks sexy. And some lettuce. So I've just got some romaine lettuce I folded in half. Pop it on the top, and then of course there's ketchup. There's ketchup if you want it, which she will want it. So I'm just going to split. Actually, I'm going to pop that on the tomato. So it, there we go. Lovely. And there we have it. Burger in a bun. This one was with cheese, lettuce, tomato, all in a sesame seed bun. That sounds very familiar to another burger that's probably more famous than this one, but doesn't matter. So yeah, that's my easy burger. It's really, really simple. It's really, really quick. It's just so delicious and so yummy. And I would serve this up with some more salad, potato salad, chips if you so fancy. We normally just have it like this with loads of salad, to be honest. But it's your choice, again. Now, if you do anything different with it, add it, subtract it, whatever, let me know, because I'd really love to know any ideas. I love to be inspired by you guys. If you make it, take a photo, let me know. If you have any problems, get in touch. I can help you, because this is my personal recipe, so I kind of know what works and what doesn't work. And I really look forward to seeing you on another video. Thank you so much for joining me for this one. It's been wonderful doing this for you, and I look forward to doing this for you again with another one of my recipes. So take care, enjoy your burger, and I'll see you soon. Bye.